I'm Tim, welcome to WhatYouWant.com, and thanks for logging on. Now, it's after lunch here, but I'd like to welcome you all the same to breakfast at Tiffany's, because today we are looking at one heck of a unique, rare, and quite honestly, perhaps one-of-a-kind Rolex GMT-Master II. This is a 16710 reference GMT-Master II X Series, one of the last to have been co-signed in the legendary partnership between Rolex and Tiffany Co. This GMT-Master II is available for purchase on our website, WhatYouWant.com, but I want to emphasize that what you're getting is far more than a watch. It is a time capsule. It is a complete package of watch, box, and accessories, not just from Rolex, but from Tiffany's. Each one an exemplar of each piece as it shipped from the factories in 1993. Now I want to focus on the watch first because condition is the highlight here. What you're looking at is a piece that shipped to Tiffany's in 1993 and essentially froze in time. Now produced in 1991 as part of the X series, it was later co-signed by Tiffany in its New York facilities, creating one of the last watches in a series that ran from the late 1950s to the early 90s. But what you're getting here is first and foremost a true time warp watch. Everything about it, and you can see it, 40 millimeters on my wrist, 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters in circumference, wears like the day it left Geneva and arrived in Manhattan. There isn't a single mark on this watch. More importantly, there isn't any evidence of it ever having been worn. Now you can see that it wears easy in the fashion of the pared down slim pre-super case Rolex GMT-Master II, but what sets it apart is that everything from the unusual combination of the GMT Master and the Jubilee bracelet to the gorgeous hand-finished beveling of the case to the fullness of the spring bar apertures on the lugs to the body and definition of the crown guards speaks to a watch that has not just never been worn, never been polished, never been refinished. It really feels and looks as if it has never been touched. Consider the virtually new Coke bezel on the watch. Not to be confused with new Coke, this bezel really satisfies. What I want to emphasize is that the fading, the scratching, the lost luster of these pieces over the years is not in evidence here. I've never seen such a crisp and clear Coke, Pepsi, or full blackened bezel from this period. This is not just a standout in as much as it has a unique accessory set, but it represents something very much like a new 25-year-old Rolex, and it's an extraordinary piece on that basis alone. But moving inboard, we start to see where this watch sets itself apart as a collectible vintage piece. First, before we get to that Tiffany Co signature and the story behind it, I want to talk a little bit about the dial. Now, it has the latter half of the 80s applied white gold index and, of course, white gold hand combination. For an upscale look, it has the full gloss black background, really pops in the light. But what sets it apart from a contemporary GMT Master II is that this is a tritium dial. Like all pre-1998 Rolex dials with lume, it's tritium, so it does age over time, and that's the only respect in which this watch shows any sign of the passing of years. There's a gorgeous light and early stage ecru patina, even across all of the indices, as well as the luminescent elements of the hands. No oxidation, no corrosion, just a little bit of light beta emitter fade brought on by the onset of years. It's even, it's beautiful, and it makes this watch something of a gem on that basis alone. But it's the Tiffany signature that sets this one apart and begins to explain the second part of this watch's compelling story. Tiffany was an upscale retailer that started co-branding the dials of Rolex watches that it retailed back in the 1950s when the practice was common. Over time, the number of retailers who were allowed to do this and maintain their Rolex authorized dealer accounts was pared down and down and down until by the 1980s it was reduced to the two most prestigious houses, Cartier and Tiffany. Now Cartier ultimately was the first to drop, and Tiffany persisted with the practice right up until the early 1990s when Rolex finally dropped the hammer and said, stop co-signing the dials or you're going to lose your account. Tiffany ultimately refused to relent, and just after the 1993 shipment of this watch to Tiffany, the relationship was terminated altogether. So not only is this something like a best of the series, but it's also one of the last of the line. The unique combination of a rare reference co-signed by Tiffany's, and you're going to note you see far more transitional GMTs than GMT Master II 16710s out there. Go ahead, check auction results, check other vendors, check previous sales history. You're going to be hard-pressed to find one of these, much less one that literally looks like it jumped out of Doc Brown's time machine. I can't overemphasize that right down to the unusual Jubilee bracelet itself accounted for as original on the Rolex chronometer certificate included with this watch. There is no part of this watch that reads as any different than it did the day it came out of that case at Tiffany's. And I want to emphasize that the other part of what you're getting with this watch is not just something that is literally a machine out of time, but you're getting a full set co-branded by Rolex and Tiffany's. You're getting all the original articles from each of the original manufacturer and retailer. The chronometer hang tag, you're getting the original sales hang tag, and on the opposite side you do see the original X serial number. You are getting the Tiffany's teal presentation box, both parts. You are getting the period correct original equipment Rolex GMT-Master instruction manual as shipped with this watch. Of course, you're also getting the original documentation wallet with the Oyster guarantee booklet and the original Rolex calendar card from the period. And yes, just to confirm that all of the documentation associated with this watch conforms, you're getting the original chronometer certificate with serial number and Tiffany listed as the original retailer by the original Rolex shipment clerk. So everything about this watch is not just rare, not just immaculate, but completely finished, full, completely constituted as it left Rolex, arrived at Tiffany, and went into the hands of its first owner. I can't overemphasize that you could search a lifetime and not find another one of these. The combination of condition, impeccable provenance, and complete accessory set, the rarity of this late reference with a Tiffany Co signature, and the fact that it is, for all intents and purposes, going to be a virgin watch when taken home. I'm sorry to say that Rolex and Tiffany's had their fallout, but the bottom line is, for collectors, it's a major boon and perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Because while that partnership may be over, if you decide to take this watch home from watchyouwant.com, you still retain the right to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at Tiffany's.